Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Facebook Live event about our Reimagine Nature Salt Lake City Public Lands Master Plan. My name is Luke Allen. I am the Community Outreach Events and Marketing Manager with Salt Lake City, and I will be moderating today's event. We're scheduled for about 45 minutes, so we should be finishing up right around noon. We'll start off with a 15 to 20-minute presentation that provides information and background and more details about the current status of the Reimagine Nature Public Lands Master Plan. And included in this presentation will be information about 10 big ideas or transformative projects that could shape the future of public lands in Salt Lake City. After the presentation, we'll move into a panel discussion and Q&A session. So if you have any questions about the master plan, feel free to drop those in the comment box below the video. I'm joined by three others today, Nancy Monteith, Anna Laybourne, and Kristen Riker. So we'll go ahead and have those three introduce themselves. And when Kristen is done with her introduction, she will move right into the presentation.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm Nancy Monteith. I'm a landscape architect with Salt Lake City and the project manager for Reimagine Nature.
Hi, I'm Anna Laybourne, principal with Design Workshop and a consultant supporting the city in the creation of this master plan.
Hi, I'm Kristen Riker. I'm Salt Lake City's Public Lands Director and the Deputy Director for Public Services. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Reimagine Nature, Salt Lake City's Public Lands Master Plan. Salt Lake City Public Lands is collaborating with Design Workshop on a citywide master plan that will identify specific meaningful projects and initiatives that align with public lands values of stewardship, livability, and equity. The master plan will establish an inspirational framework to guide how we grow and prioritize investments for the next 20 years within the 4 public lands divisions. Those include trails and natural lands, city parks, urban forestry, and city golf. This map shows the extent of the public land system that includes over 70 miles of trails, over 80 city parks, 108 holes of city golf, thousands of acres of natural lands, and 86,500 urban forest trees. This is a citywide plan and a rare opportunity to establish big ideas, long-range goals, and transformative projects for our public lands. The master plan is informed by the 2019 needs assessment, which helped identify areas for improvement and public values, including 97% of people polled think it's important for city residents to live within a 10-minute walk to a local park. As next steps, the needs assessment called out that there is a real opportunity to go beyond focusing on the numbers and to address parks and natural areas as essential elements for better air quality, climate change mitigation, energy efficiency, and environmental justice. Parks and public lands can help improve the health of the city.
The first engagement window happened last August through September. We connected with over 7,000 people. That included 4,500 surveys. We did 17 pop-up events where we went to our parks and natural lands to engage with our users and encourage them to take the survey. We also had a series of focus groups where we had conversations with underrepresented communities and monitored our feedback throughout the open window so we could make sure we had a representative sample from across demographics and areas in the city. This window, which started April 1st and will go until the May 9th, we've been doing 17 intercept events where we're out in our parks and natural lands and inviting people to take the survey and sharing some ideas about the transformative projects. Kristen will talk a little more about how this feedback is feeding into the plan framework.
Thanks, Nancy. This diagram outlines the master plan framework of livability, equity, and stewardship. These are the 3 value lenses that frame the plan goals and strategies. The feedback from the first survey and stakeholder conversations led to the prioritization of these 5 overarching goals for what the public lands master plan should seek to achieve or improve. These goals will be used as an organizing framework for recommended strategies, practices, and actions. The plan goals include creating connected and accessible green spaces, creating welcoming, active, and inclusive spaces, protecting public lands through a commitment to stewardship, growing and expanding our park system, and sustaining our public lands by focusing on environmental health. We are now at a stage in the plan development to express synthesis of initial ideas for public feedback. The plan vision is further expressed through 10 transformative projects that require great effort to achieve and a shift in how we operate. The projects range from local scale neighborhood park initiatives to large regional scale efforts to connect our mountains, cities, and lake. The following images, which Anna will present, help to demonstrate examples of the inspirational ideas.
Thanks. I'll walk through these 10 transformative projects that were identified from previous engagement that we're seeking your feedback on. First is Just 5 Minutes From Here. It's a wayfinding and signage campaign that makes it easier to explore nearby parks, trails, and public spaces. Some potential projects related to this include a multilingual signage system, a campaign for increasing awareness about parks and activities, and promoting other green spaces such as schools and libraries. Second is Connect Mountains to the Lake. We'll be completing missing links in regional trails and invest in greenways to enhance nature and creeks within the city. It includes connecting trails, implementing planned trails, and also implementing the 7 greenways vision along creeks. 3 is Reimagine Neighborhood Parks, transforming parks into vibrant community spaces that empower residents to contribute to their neighborhood identity. Potential projects include identifying priorities for equitable park redevelopment, engaging neighbors in the redesign process, and promoting volunteerism. Number 4 is Coming Soon to a Park Near You. Help our parks, large and small, come alive with activities and events throughout the year. It includes program partnerships and providing nature-based and outdoor programming. 5 is Meet Me at the River, investing in projects and maintenance along the Jordan River Parkway that will promote equity, access, scenic beauty, diverse recreation, and healthy ecology along the parkway. Potential projects are enhancing recreation spaces near the rivers, such as kayak rental, restoring natural areas, and improving a number of city park properties along the river. Number 6 is Tell Our Stories, revealing past and present stories from our diversity of experiences that have shaped this valley, giving focus to underrepresented and Indigenous people, expressing their stories through landscapes, structure, placemaking, and art. It includes partnerships with storytelling projects, restoring key structures within public lands, and making more meaningful naming of local parks. Number 7 is Downtown Comes Alive, increasing the provision of green and active spaces downtown that will contribute to livability and economic vitality. Some of those investments include Pioneer Park, reimagining the wide streets in the downtown, and also partnerships for how green spaces can be used as a mosaic to connect throughout the entire downtown, and better activating these spaces. Number 8 is Grow Our Urban Forest, building public awareness to support new trees, stewardship, and allowing urban forestry to plant trees in all publicly owned landscapes. It includes public awareness campaigns, investment in street planting, and maximizing how trees are used in public land properties as well as streets. Number 9 is Welcome to the Green, inviting appropriate alternative use of public golf courses for greater benefit. It means introducing some alternative uses, things like concessions, off-leash, dog walking, running races, all being explored, as well as incorporating additional environmental benefits like tree plantings, diversifying vegetation and stormwater management, rewilding some of these spaces, as well as expanding Gulf's involvement in environmental protection with storm water. Number 10 is put environment first, cultivating more biological diversity in parks and natural areas. So that includes looking at some opportunities for more robust native plants and pollinator habitats, hosting educational events and engaging people in programming around stewardship, as well as increasing the landscape resiliency of our properties for climate change and addressing degraded landscapes.
Thanks, Anna. So now we're inviting you to take a 5-minute survey to reflect on and affirm the refined goals and transformative projects inspired from our community feedback. We want to make sure to include goals and top priorities endorsed by the public in the draft plan document later this year. Please feel free to share this webpage with your neighbors and friends on your Facebook page or in any social media that you might be on. So thank you for your time, and I think we'll turn it over to Luke to ask questions.
Thank you, Kristen. Just a reminder, if you have any questions for us about the Reimagine Nature SLC Public Lands Master Plan, feel free to drop those questions into the box below the video. Our first question will be for Anna. Anna, could you explain what exactly is a comprehensive master plan?
Yeah, happy to. A comprehensive master plan they're long-range decision-making tools that they provide strategic guidance and direction for future growth and development of your community. A comprehensive plan establishes usually a 10 to 20-year vision that considers a range of themes and topics from quality of life to stewardship to equity, or some of those in this particular plan.
Thank you, Anna. And Kristen, could you just elaborate a little more on why exactly we need a comprehensive master plan and how this is developed for Salt Lake City?
Yeah, a comprehensive master plan is typically developed every 20 years with an update at 10 years. And it's going to help us plan for the future and the growth of Salt Lake City. As the city has more people moving into the confines of the city boundaries, we're going to need to consider what gaps do we have in our park system, and where do we need to add space for folks so that we can make sure the level of service that you enjoy today in your parks is also available to our kids and future generations. So the plan will help us understand what we should be doing in the future.
Thanks, Kristen. A related question for you. How exactly do master plans get implemented? What are the next steps with this?
In our most current survey, we're asking the public to tell us what projects are most important or most urgent. So based on that feedback, we'll prioritize projects for implementation. The master plan will include strategies and actions for each of the 10 transformative projects. After the master plan is adopted by City Council, a more detailed implementation plan will be developed. That way, public lands will have clear time-based actions and targets to meet. We will share our progress with the community on an annual basis. The master plan will inform future funding requests for capital improvements, as well as programmatic.
But ultimately, where will the funding come from for these projects?
Yeah, well, every year Public Lands proposes projects to the mayor and city council that will be based on recommendations from this plan. City council reviews departmental requests and allocates funding for projects. The general fund is a significant source of funding, but so is impact fees. These are collected from new development to be used for new parks and amenities to add service to our park system. The purpose of impact fee dollars are to build more resources and access for the new residents that are moving into our city. The city is also exploring alternative funding sources to improve our public land system.
Thank you, Kristen. So it looks like we have a question from Sam on Facebook. The question is, can you expand on the Rose Park Bikeway, and will it be fully protected from traffic? Maybe Nancy or Kristen, could you talk about that?
I don't have information on that. Nance, do you have any more information on the Rose Park Bikeway, or is that a transportation question? You're on mute, Nancy.
The Rose Park Bikeway is a transportation project, and we do work with transportation to try and find synergies between those bikeways and access to our parks. But they would probably be, more informed to be able to talk about how it's protected from traffic. Within public lands, we really do planning for off-street trails.
Great, thank you, Nancy. We'll go ahead and add the link to transportation on the Facebook comments, so you can know where to go for follow-up information on that. One more question for you, Kristen, and we've alluded to this throughout the presentation, but could you go over all of the different divisions and programs that will be included under this master plan?
Yeah, Salt Lake City master plan will cover the city parks, which includes our cemetery, the regional athletic complex, and our graffiti removal programs, natural lands, our trails, our urban forestry, and the golf program.
Thank you, Kristen. Now a question for you, Nancy. How can the public get involved with this process?
We have a public survey that's open right now, and it's about the 10 projects that we've shared with you today, and it will be open for another couple weeks. So you can get on that Reimagine Nature saltlakecity.com and take survey number 2. We also have a couple other avenues within the website where you can provide big ideas and other kind of things that you would like to reimagine. And that's on the last tab on the website. There's a lot of information to explore and learn and respond to. So we have a few more Intercept events. We'll be in Memory Grove tomorrow, Wasatch Hollow, and Cottonwood Park next week if you want to interact with staff in our spaces. And we have a couple more presentations at community councils. There's also the option to sign up online with your email to get regular updates through the project development and after about project progress.
Nancy, I'd just add to that those events are all advertised on that website that you mentioned. So if people want to find out when you're in the parks, they can find that information there. And it's just a great way to engage with others and make sure that everyone is knowing about this opportunity to provide input and do that not all online. I think also all your signs throughout the city that you've put in public spaces are making a big difference in getting the word out about this. So you'll see some sidewalk stencils and signs in different locations that are indicating this survey is available and how to learn more about this project throughout the city.
Thanks, Anna.
So in the presentation, we mentioned that the master plan is being built on 3 key values, which are equity, livability, and stewardship. So let's touch on equity for a moment here. Anna or Kristen, could you just help us understand how this master plan will address equity?
Sure, I can start off. That has been one of the key tenets that came up from the very initiation of this project, knowing that it's something that the mayor's focused on and the city has been focused on a while, how to better integrate thoughts on directing equity in planning processes. So from the way we engage people to how what this plan is going to describe and create is one of the key tenets. So it's not just one component of a transformational project, it really translates to many of them and throughout the entire plan on strategies and recommendations. One of the things that has come up as a potential with this is linking into equity mapping and help driving how investments occur throughout the city for public lands in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. And I'll just add to that improving equity is a top priority for our administration and also for public lands. And we are trying to contribute to this goal by taking time to really understand the community's priorities and needs. When our residents are not engaged in the processes of developing and programming parks and green spaces, they can be underutilized and misused. So our goal is to center residents as decision makers and idea comer-uppers in how funding is used, and help us activate our parks and ensure that we have more equity. As public servants, we have a responsibility to ensure that we are adopting inclusive practices into all areas of parks, trails, and natural lands, including planning and programming. So we look at access to our parks, and one of the ways we do that is including a 10-minute walk for everyone in the city to help us achieve equitable park access. So our needs assessment addressed this, looking at gaps. Who doesn't have a 10-minute walk, and where should we add parks and green spaces and trails so that we can ensure that access is within 10 minutes for everyone in our city parks.
Thank you, Kristen, and thank you, Anna. Anna, could you just explain a little bit more about how long this master planning process typically takes and how much longer specifically is left before this Reimagine Nature public lands master plan is done?
Sure. This one was set up to take about a year, and we're a little approaching halfway in the process. So there's been a lot before this effort. Right now, we're asking for the survey. As mentioned, this is the second survey in the process to get input, and we'll be wrapping up here by presenting the draft to City Council later this summer of the plan. So there'll be a document that's released, and then we hope to have that plan adopted in early fall.
Let's see. Thank you so much, Anna. And it sounds like you just explained what the next steps are. We'll leave it open for another few minutes here to see if there's any final questions that come in from Facebook. And while we're leaving that open, let me just let everybody know that we're going to be doing a similar presentation tomorrow at 12:15, and that will be in Spanish. So if you know any Spanish speakers who are interested in learning more about this master plan, please invite them to join us tomorrow at 12:15 in the same place.
Looks like there's one more, Luke, that potentially Nancy couldn't answer. Looks. What about what has the community outreach entailed so far?
Sure. So we've done quite a bit. We started this project initially before COVID. And then once COVID happened, we had to think differently about how we reached out to the community. So we did a whole series of pop-up events in the fall in our spaces so that we could have a physical presence, but still keep socially distant. And we offered treats to those who took our survey. So we did 17 of those in our public spaces. We also did a whole series of focus groups with organizations and community partners, and those were done virtually. And we found that they were really successful in making it easy for people to participate. And we got great feedback. From the public survey, we had, I believe, 4,500 responses and over 10,000 unique comments. So we spent quite a bit of time organizing those comments to really filter out or divine the 10 projects that you saw here. And so that's what this engagement window is about, is really asking you specifically about those projects and saying, did we hear you? Are we on the right track? So during this window, we've done also, I believe, 15 or 16 intercept events in our parks. And as Anna mentioned earlier, those are all online if you would like to join one of our final ones. We also, throughout this whole process, collaborated with the University of Utah graduate and undergraduate students to add capacity to our engagement. And so those students were embedded in the community, key participants, and having those conversations and documenting that information and really bringing a lot of valuable insights back to this process.
Thank you, Nancy. And here's, go ahead, Anna.
Oh, sure. I would just add that usually at this point, people are wondering, so will my input matter and how will it be used? Since you've already heard from so many others, what will that mean? And really for a survey like this, we are combing through your comments. We are looking at the overall of the total responses. It's really helpful to have quantitative responses at this stage. But I think especially in those moments in the parks, just hearing from people and their stories of how they interact with the spaces, it really adds a lot more flavor and color to what this plan can represent, making sure these aren't just words, but these are really impactful for your lives. So all those, even if they're new ideas that come up in this last round of engagement window 2, it really is helping to make for a plan that better reflects the community, your interests, as well as making sure that that piece about being very inclusive and how we listen to others, we're being very thoughtful about how that occurs.
Thank you. And it looks like we've had one more question come in about golf specifically. So I'll throw this question out to the group. How can we transform more golf courses into more equitable spaces? And is this something that could be put into the master plan?
Sure, I went over that a little bit quickly in our presentation, but we've had some initial thoughts that were from the last round of engagement, as well as those that manage the golf courses, helping to contribute their thoughts of what that could look like and what are the opportunities on those spaces. And we'll be able to further express that in the next round with your input and thoughts on what those look like. But some of them were things like just how people can use them for other purposes beyond golf. So some of those were, for example, grooms having sledding hills be available, or off-leash dog walking, and a few other ideas there, but also that the benefit that golf lands can bring in contributing to environmental health as a city. They're big open spaces, often that really with some tailoring to think about those ecological purposes and how habitat might be created for wildlife. They really could be spaces that are better utilized to increase the benefits for public health. But this Reimagine project, it was an effort that people want to say, are there some other things our golf courses could be doing for us to benefit more people, but not changing out that golf is still a recreation activity that many enjoy in the city. And so not trying to strip that away in any way. This is just more of an add to it and thinking about how those things can be synergies together.
Thank you, Anna. One other question that some people may be interested in understanding is how this public lands master plan will relate to the other master plans that are happening in the city. So maybe Nancy or Kristen, could you talk about how the different master plans work together? You know, I know in city government, people are always talking about master plan, but sometimes it's confusing about how these gel together. So Nancy or Kristen, could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Luke. So when we are planning this master plan, we have definitely looked at our other master plans, Plan Salt Lake and the transportation plan, and taking those into account. The library is also working on a plan, and there's the Grand Boulevard plans. A lot of other city master plans address green spaces, whether they are greenways or, you know, the Plan Salt Lake addresses a green loop around the city, and along that is what we consider a linear park. And so we certainly look at those plans when we are developing our plans for a linear park and try to incorporate them so that we're all focusing on the same thing and creating this opportunities and building on what's already been done in the surveys and through public engagement.
Thank you, Kristen. It looks like we have another Facebook question from Matt. Is there a water conservation plan put in place for our parks and green spaces for their irrigation? And if there is a plan in that space, what is the plan?
Oh, thanks. I'll take that one. Thanks, Matt. You know, the mayor declared a stage 1 drought, and which asks the parks, trails and natural lands and urban forestry to come up with a plan for conserving water. And we are currently working on a plan to do that. it's difficult in our public spaces to cut back on water. The irrigation systems that we have, a lot of them are 10, 20, some are 40 years old, and they don't irrigate specific areas. For example, we can't just irrigate the trees without irrigating the grass and the shrubs and the plants that are around. And it is unfortunate because when we cut back on water in the park, we cut back on water to our trees. And when we have a really hot summer, dry summer, like we did last year, it's really hard on our trees. So as we install new irrigation systems, we will be putting in zone irrigation so that we can water our trees separately. If we need to let certain areas go dry, we can do that. Our our playing fields for soccer and that kind of thing, we would try to keep green and irrigated. But there are areas in our parks where we could not water as much if we had the right system. So that's a goal of ours for the future. And as we do any changes and adjustments to our park system in the irrigation area.
Thank you, Kristen. Sounds like we don't have any more questions. So let's just once more talk about what the next steps are in this master plan. So Nancy, can you just once more go over the timeline? And I know that the survey is going to be closing on May 9th, but a lot of people might be interested in knowing, once the survey closes, when can they expect to hear more about this plan?
Sure. So yes, the survey will close on May 9th. And I think what's happening in the background is Design Workshop, our consultant, is collecting a lot of information, looking at case studies from other communities, and we'll start assembling or putting together really tactical recommendations for each project. And as we evaluate the feedback from the community, it'll tell us a lot about what people feel like is most important and most urgent. So that helps inform where we put our focus, both in what we work on first, and then where we dedicate our funding dollars as we move forward. And I think really what I want to do is have Anna talk a little bit about the information that gets populated, and then we'll move towards a draft plan for later this summer. So Anna, you want to talk a little bit about that and case studies?
Right. I often get asked, well, what is and isn't in this master plan? We have an outline for that of what it looks like and what's going into this one. But just generally, this is a vision plan. So it does point to some tangible projects, but it isn't the step-by-step of how you will do all of that or what exactly it will cost. That comes later. So after this plan is adopted by City Council, then those details are developed that are the next steps for what is funded exactly, your capital improvement plan going forward from this master plan. But the master plan really points us towards those priorities of what the public has said is the direction. And it's one of the advantages of creating a master plan like this with so much of the citizenry engaged and providing that direction is this becomes a long-term guide for decision makers and where to invest their efforts and time and what needs focus. So that comes after this plan is adopted. But what you'll expect to find in this document is something that has images and graphics that help tell the story of this vision, and that has some details about examples of where this has been successful and what ideas really came out of all of your input. So we really appreciate the additional thoughts and concepts that you're providing in this round.
Yeah, and just one thing to remember is there will be one more opportunity for engagement, and that is through the City Council adoption process. As that in that phase, we'll have a draft plan that we share with City Council, and then the City Council will share and facilitate the engagement at that time, because the council members also want to be sure that the public has been weighed in and that what we present really reflects the community desires and priorities. So look for that later this summer. I think August, September you'll see more information about our third and final engagement phase.
So please make sure to get online at reimaginenature.slc.com and take our 5-minute survey, share it with your friends and through your social media. We really appreciate and want your input so that we can make this plan very meaningful for everyone in Salt Lake City. So thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us, everybody.